Ever felt that cold grip of fear just before making a big decision? It's a feeling as old as humanity itself. Imagine our ancestors, thousands of years ago, hearing a rustle in the bushes. Fear was their superpower. It screamed, danger, run, survive. And it worked. That primal instinct kept our species alive, hardwired into our brains to protect us from predators and threats. But fast forward to today. The world has changed, but our brains haven't quite caught up. The predators we face now aren't saber-toothed tigers. They're job interviews, investment opportunities, or the chance to ask someone out. Yet, that same ancient fear response kicks in, and instead of saving us, it often paralyzes us, sabotaging our best-laid plans and leading us to make choices we later regret. In the next few minutes, we are going to dive deep into why this happens and, more importantly, what you can do about it. So, how exactly does this ancient survival mechanism trip us up in the modern world? It's all about cognitive biases, these little mental shortcuts our brain takes that are supercharged by fear. One of the biggest culprits is the negativity bias. Think about it. You could receive 10 compliments and 1 piece of criticism, and which one will you obsess over for the rest of the day? That's negativity bias. Our brains are like Velcro for bad experiences and Teflon for good ones. This was great for survival. Remembering the one time a berry made you sick was more important than remembering the 99 times it was delicious. But today, this bias makes us blow potential risks way out of proportion. We fixate on the worst-case scenario, no matter how unlikely. That fear of failure in a new business venture? It becomes a certainty in our minds. The fear of rejection? It feels like an inevitable, crushing blow. We see threats that aren't really there, or we inflate small risks into insurmountable mountains. Another powerful bias fueled by fear is loss aversion. Psychologists have shown that the pain of losing something is about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. Losing $100 hurts way more than finding $100 feels good. This fear of loss makes us incredibly risk-averse. We cling to what we have, even if it's not making us happy, because the thought of losing it is terrifying. This is why people stay in dead-end jobs they hate. The fear of losing a steady paycheck, no matter how small, outweighs the potential joy of finding a fulfilling career. It's why we hold on to failing investments, hoping they'll bounce back, instead of cutting our losses and reinvesting in something with real potential. Fear whispers in our ear, don't risk it. What if you lose what you have? So we play it safe. We choose the predictable path, the comfortable option, not because it's the best one, but because it feels like the least likely to result in a loss. We prioritize avoiding failure over actively pursuing success. This constant state of playing defense, of letting fear call the shots, has a profound and often devastating impact. It doesn't just make us miss out on a few opportunities. It can trap us in a cycle of regret and personal stagnation. Think about the life you want to live, the person you want to become. Now, think about the decisions required to get there. They probably involve some level of risk, uncertainty, and the possibility of failure. When fear consistently vetoes these decisions, you're not just standing still, you're actively building a prison of what ifs. What if I had started that business? What if I had moved to that new city? What if I had told them how I really felt? Each time you let fear win, you add another bar to this cage. The regret from past inaction fuels future fear, creating a vicious cycle. You look back at the chances you didn't take, and that regret makes you even more scared to take a chance in the future. You start to believe the fearful stories you tell yourself, that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not brave enough. Your world shrinks. Your potential remains locked away, and you end up living a smaller, less vibrant version of the life you were capable of. This isn't just about missing out on wealth or career success. It's about missing out on experiences, relationships, and the personal growth that only comes from stepping outside your comfort zone. The true tragedy of a fear-based life isn't the failures you might encounter. It's the life you never even give yourself a chance to live. So, how do we break free? How do we stop letting this ancient, outdated programming run our lives? It's not about becoming fearless. Fear is a natural, and sometimes useful, emotion. The goal is to feel the fear, acknowledge it, and make a conscious choice anyway. The first step is to simply identify the fear. When you're facing a big decision and feel that anxiety creeping in, stop and ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of? Name it. Is it fear of failure? Fear of rejection? Fear of judgment? Fear of the unknown? Often, Just shining a light on the fear and calling it by its name reduces its power. It stops being this huge, shadowy monster and becomes a specific, manageable problem. You're moving it from the emotional, reactive part of your brain to the logical, problem-solving part. Once you've identified the fear, the next step is to challenge its assumptions. Fear loves to catastrophize. It tells you the absolute worst-case scenario is the most likely one. Your job is to become a detective and question this. Ask yourself, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen? Be specific. Now, ask, what is the probability of that actually happening? Usually, it's far lower than you think. Then, crucially, ask yourself, if the worst-case scenario did happen, could I handle it? What steps could I take to recover? More often than not, you'll realize you're more resilient than you give yourself credit for. Finally, flip the script. Ask, what is the best-case scenario? And what is the most likely scenario? By examining the full spectrum of possibilities, you give yourself a more balanced and realistic perspective, cutting through the fog of fear-driven pessimism. The final and most important step is to take action. All the analysis in the world means nothing if you don't eventually make a move. This doesn't mean being reckless. It means taking calculated risks. Start small. The goal is to build your courage muscle. If you're afraid of public speaking, don't sign up to give a TED Talk tomorrow. Maybe start by speaking up more in a small meeting or joining a local Toastmasters club. Each time you face a small fear and survive, you prove to your brain that the threat wasn't as big as it seemed. You're gathering new data, overwriting the old, fear-based programming with new evidence of your own capability. This creates a positive feedback loop. Small acts of courage build your confidence, which makes it easier to take on slightly bigger risks. You start to see that the cost of inaction, the pain of regret, is often far greater than the cost of a potential failure. Failure is an event. Regret is a lingering poison. By learning to manage your fear instead of letting it manage you, you reclaim your power of choice. You open the door to a life of growth, opportunity, and fulfillment. So let's bring this all together. We've seen how fear, our ancient protector, can become our modern-day saboteur. It hijacks our decision-making through cognitive biases like negativity bias and loss aversion, causing us to play it safe and avoid risks at all costs. This leads to a devastating cycle of regret and stagnation, where we live a fraction of the life we are capable of. But it doesn't have to be this way. The path forward is clear. First, identify and name your fear to rob it of its amorphous power. Second, challenge its catastrophic assumptions by rationally assessing the real risks and your ability to handle them. And third, take small, calculated actions to build your courage and prove to yourself that you are capable. This isn't a one-time fix. It's a practice. It's about consistently choosing courage over comfort. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate fear, but to learn to dance with it, to hear its warning but not obey its every command. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your decisions, and you cannot make quality decisions when they are clouded by fear. Thank you so much for watching. If this video resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content on mastering your mindset. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's one small, calculated risk you're going to take this week? Let's support each other in this journey. See you in the next video.